It's time, and that means it's time to get your weekly fishing report. So, whether you want to know about the bass spawn or the big groups of redfish staging on the jetties, our guides got you covered. This is the Texas Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Presented by Yamaha.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. I'm Brie Gabrielle, and standing next to me like always is Captain Rick Murphy, and we are beyond excited to be here and on your screens with a new and improved studio, the best captains and the most accurate reports from around the state, right Rick?
Yes, you're absolutely right. We did a little upgrading around here. I like the new colors. Gives us a little bright and sunny feel. So Here we go, Texas.
Here we go. All right, and of course we have Dave Ferrell over at the CCA Workbench, who has been dearly missed. Are you ready for a great season, Dave?
I am. I didn't get the upgrade. However, I'm still working with what I got.
You still look great, Dave. Don't worry.
Well, there you go. That's what I'm trying. That's what I'm after.
Hey, Dave did go get a haircut.
He did.
I
We
did
got
get a
haircuts.
haircut.
That's a start. Okay, well, let's get y'all into the reports and out on the water, starting with our first guide in the Star-Tron Middle Fresh region, Matt Loescher. Matt, welcome back and tell us what you got.
Hey guys, I'm excited to kick off this season with a really good report coming out of the Middle Fresh. Things are heating up over here, and there's a lot of bass and crappie being caught. I'm going to start off talking about Toledo Bend bass. A lot of the bass are set up on beds over here at Toledo Bend right now. This gives fishermen a really increased opportunity to catch the fish of a lifetime while just simply fishing down a bank. Just please practice and catching release right now as much as possible, because it's especially important while these fish are up there making babies. You don't have to go out deep right now and use those electronics to find them. The most important, powerful tool on your boat is a power pole right now, and some good quality polarized sunglasses. Most of the fish are in very predictable, shallow cover areas from about 1 to 4 foot deep. Focus on the areas that are the most protected from the wind and have the warmest water. If the water is clear enough, you can find bass by visually searching for them on their beds. But if it's not so clear, you can still catch them. You just need to blind cast to any good-looking cover where a bass may make a nest. One of my favorite ways to catch them right now is with a Texas rig lizard on a light weight, like an 1/8 ounce. But if that's not working, then a weightless bass assassin fat job is another great tool. Watermelon red is my go-to color right now for both of those baits. But if that's not working, if I'm in the dirtier water, then June bug's going to get the nod. I've got a photo there for you guys of Mr. Gene Guidry with a nice bass that's self-acceptable to one of those lizards I was just talking about. He's all smiles there with one of those big Toledo Bend fish.
Hey, Matt, your mic is just a little muffled, so I don't know what we need to do to adjust that, but it's a little bit muffly.
How's this? Is that
That's
better?
great. That's great. Go ahead. Let her rip. Tell us about the crappie fishing on Toledo Bend, bub.
All right. So the crappie on Toledo Bend have been a little tough to catch this winter, but spring has sprung now, and they're really moving shallow in big numbers. We've been catching them over submerged grass in about 3 to 9 foot of water. Road runners with a black and chartreuse grub have been the bait of choice, but live minnows under a cork will work to catch some as well. This is a great time to catch those big flags. Just concentrate on the areas where a creek channel kind of winds back into a grass flat. Throw that road runner out over the grass and just wind it in extra slowly back to the boat to catch them, kind of like a spinnerbait. And I've got a photo there for you guys on the crappie as well of the Sanders family holding up some of those big black crappie we caught last week.
All right, they're looking good. All right, what else you got? How about a report from Sam Rayburn?
You got it. Sam Rayburn's been on fire again this year. Heavy rains have left Big Sam way up in the bushes, quite a bit above full stage for some time now. But high water means bass in those bushes. And this is a great time to break out the big heavy rods, go fishing right in the middle of that great shallow cover that's available up there. A good bait to use for this is your Bass Assassin skunk bait. Texas rig it on a great big straight shank flipping hook and use whatever size weight that you need to get down into those bushes and rip them out of there. But if that's not working, or if the big heavy rod's not your thing, then pick up the Bass Assassin fat job. And I like to put it on a little light, like an 1/8 ounce weight in this scenario, rig it Texas style, and toss it kind of in and around those same bushes, or even in the grass, to finesse those bass that are a little bit more finicky.
All right, thank you so much, Matt. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Middle Fresh region. It says that Toledo Bend, the bass are bedding in the shallow, wind-protected areas in 1 to 4 feet, biting Texas-rigged lizards, and look for the crappie in 3 to 9 feet using road runners and minnows to catch big slabs. And then Sam Rayburn, the bass are in the flooded bushes. Use a Texas-rigged plastic like a Bass Assassin Fat Job or even one of the skunk apes that he was talking about, Brie.
You know, Matt Loescher's all about keeping it simple, have you noticed?
Yeah, man.
That's all you need. That's all you need.
He's so much fun to fish with.
Yeah, I haven't been with him yet.
Okay,
why don't you invite me sometime?
Okay.
Okay, fine.
You're invited.
All right, now let's welcome our newest addition to our crew from the Fish Bites Upper Coast region, Captain Carl Weston. We're so happy and excited to have you on the team, Carl. So let's hear what we're hooking up to this weekend.
Hello, Rick and Brie.
How you doing,
great to
bud?
be here. Oh, great. Love this weather. Guys, we're going to go inshore for trout. The south shoreline of Galveston Bay has been really good lately, but it's all about timing. These trout are in the true spring transition stage right now, which can make things a little frustrating since they aren't eating very often. The key to catching these trout right now is to be very patient and wait for them to light up. We're on their time right now, and our fish have been eating best on the minor feed time and whenever the tide is as high as it can be. The tide will pin these fish and bait up against the bank, making them easier to target. And like always during the spring transition, the fish are eating shad and small glass minnows. So you'll have your best success throwing small baits like a Mirror Little John on a very small 1/16 ounce jig head, or hard baits like the Mirodine and the Catch 2000 have been well also. Here we have a picture of Steve Noxon with a nice trout on a wading trip with Captain Thomas Francis.
All right, let's talk about some redfish, Carl.
All right. The redfish are going to be pretty thick on the jetties during this time of year. The Sabine jetties are good right now, but the water is a little off from the fresh water due to the heavy rains. The Galveston jetties are doing pretty good. The schools of fish in the marsh have been spread out a bit, and it's a little early for the open water schools to get right. But the jetties always hold fish. So you just have to go out and find them. Find where they want to be along the rocks. A great way to find these fish is to fish parallel to the jetties with deep dive and crankbaits. Try reeling these lures so that they hit the rocks, and when they deflect off the rock, it'll interfere with the vibration, and that's when you'll get your bites. Once you find the fish, you can also try vertical jigging, spoons, 4-inch shrimp, Texas rig on a 6-aught hook with a 1/2 to 3/4 ounce slip sinker. And as always, remember to, when you have an incoming tide, fish outside the jetties, and on an outgoing tide, try and fish inside the jetties.
Hey, Carl, let's go ahead and talk about some offshore fishing, what you really are an expert in. So what do you got for us this week?
Well, we have wahoo, and the bite has been hot. But it's whenever the weather allows. When the weather allows, flower gardens, which are about 100 miles out of Galveston, have been holding some big wahoo. These fish, we've been catching on marauders in purple and black, deep divers in pink and orange. Islanders started with ballyhoo have been hot on topwater. And these baits have been catching fish up to the 80-pound range. Just make sure when you rig, use about 150-pound steel leader to keep these guys from biting you off or getting broke off. We like to fish 30-wide and 50-wide reels spooled with 80-pound mono for these big fish. And we have a photo here of Mr. Mike Ford with a big 73-pound wahoo.
Wow.
Man, I see you looking good there on the left, dude. You make that big fish look small because you're so tall, but I like it. Keep them coming.
Don't be jealous.
What about some blackfin tunas? Yeah, Bree's telling me don't be jealous because you got the height on me. All right, what about the tunas?
The blackfin tuna will be at our second offshore species, and the flower gardens have produced a pretty strong bite with them right now. Those offshore rock formations hold a lot of bait this time of year, Rick, and trolling, rigged Islander with ballyhoo, very similar to the wahoo. Smaller deep divers are producing some really good action right now. And here we have a picture of Miss Serena McCrumman with a very nice blackfin tuna.
Nice.
You know, Carl, thank you so much for sending in the pictures. Welcome to the show. Looking forward to the whole year of fishing with, talking about fishing reports. And more importantly, we're going to have to talk about maybe coming out and doing a Sportsman's Adventure episode in that contender of yours. What do you think?
I'm looking so forward to that. Thank you, folks. Yes,
All right,
sir.
bud. We'll talk
Bye,
to you again
Carl.
next week. You did a great job. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Mirror hotspots from the Upper Coast region. Inshore, he says trout on the south shoreline of East Galveston Bay. Wade fishing has been the way to go to help with some of the slow bite during the spring transition. Now, remember, soft plastics on a 16th-ounce jig head or shad-like hard baits have been the ticket. And then offshore, certainly where Carl loves to go, Wahoo, out at the flower gardens whenever the weather permits. Pulling purple and black marauders, stretch 30s, deep divers, and islanders with skirted ballyhoos at 8 to 10 mile an hour is going to catch those whoos, man.
You know, Carl's the newbie, but I'm already a fan.
Yeah, man.
Huge fan.
He's one of the best fishermen that I've ever talked to.
Wow, that means a lot coming from you. It really
well,
does.
you know right away whether the guy's really or he's BS.
Yeah,
And
he's a really.
He's a really.
He's a really.
Yeah.
All right, coming up next, we're casting to our Upper Fresh region and saying hi to a special guest from Casa Vieja. But first, we're checking out what Dave Ferrell has for us over at the CCA Workbench. Dave, what you learning us today?
We're going to be talking about the Magic Dangler, the
Ooh.
Tokyo rig. I don't know why it's called the Tokyo
Magic
rig, but it's a
Dangler.
Magic Dangler.
It sounds so
I just made it up.
fun. Okay, we'll be right back. On that note,
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Casa Vieja Lodge. 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala. Garmin. Join the club. Sportsman's Adventures. Fishing for adventure. And CCA Texas, a leader in marine conservation.
Yamaha's 4.2-liter V6 offshore 4-strokes. For those that like their V6 lighter, faster, and stronger. Setting new standards for power, efficiency, speed, and lightweight. Built for the rigors of offshore boating. Packed with Yamaha's legendary reliability. And now Yamaha's 4.2-liter V6 4-strokes offer a choice between digital or mechanical controls to match your rigging preference. Yamaha. Reliability starts here.
Remember the glory days of gasoline? It's just not made the same anymore.
Kick your gas into gear with StarTron. Pump up the performance in all of your engines. Cure the problems of ethanol with the power of enzymes. And maximize your mileage every time you drive. Kickstart your engines with StarTron.
If you're not a member of Coastal Conservation Association, you need to be. CCA fights on a national and state level for our fishing rights so that our children and grandchildren will have fish to catch today and in the future. CCA, through their habitat programs, create oyster and artificial reefs, as well as many other habitat programs. CCA also each year releases millions of trout, redfish, and flounder, so join myself, Brie, and Dave and become a member of CCA now. So, Dave, we're here at the CCA Workbench.
Yes, sir.
First of 26 consecutive weeks.
Yeah,
and
man. I got to come up with 26 things to pass on.
I know.
I can do it.
I know you can. Hey, not a better guy for the job, but you know what, Dave?
Well,
what's this Magic Dangler?
We're the Magic Dangler. It's called the Tokyo rig. And, you know, when we're out bass fishing, it's a good idea to try to fish where other guys can't.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, on the lakes, they're getting hammered by a lot of people all the time. And if everybody's doing the same thing, the bass get used to that and get to see it. And you know, you're not going to get bites a lot of times. But if you can get into places where the fish aren't seeing a lot of stuff, you know, they're not getting pounded all the time, they'll bite just about anything sometimes.
Right.
So it's very important to get into those places where other guys can't. You know, and I heard that a long time ago from a big trout fisherman. I said, "Where are you catching all those great big trout?" And he goes, "Well, I fish where other guys don't fish." You know, and that's true. You know, you catch those big fish where other guys don't. And you know, this is a normal punching jig, you know, with a creature bait on it, and that's normally the kind of thing that you use to when you're in a big bunch of hydrilla or real thick lily pads with weeds under them and stuff, and you want to punch down through all that vegetation and get down to where the fish are, you got to use a big bait and usually
heavy
a
head.
big heavy jig head, and it punches through. That's why I call it punching. It punches through all that vegetation and gets down there, and the bass can eat it. Unfortunately, you've got a big weight up here on the front of the head in front of the hook, you know, and a lot of times you'll end up getting that hook in the way, and you won't get a bite. I mean, you'll get the bite, but you won't get the hook set.
Right.
You got a lot of stuff in between. You know, you got weed guards that you have to worry about because you know you can't really rig that weedless. It's relatively weedless, but not
this changes.
great.
This can be a frog. This can be
You can
a
put
skunk
any,
ape. This can be
whatever you want to put on there. Yeah, exactly. And it's usually a dark color, you know, to get down there in the darkness. I like the blue logger toads and stuff. Well, what this is the Tokyo rig, and again, I don't know why it's called the Tokyo rig unless some fell over in Tokyo invented it, which may well have been. But what it consists of is a regular worm hook, a little swivel, and a dropper, a little down dropper. It's got a little swivel on the top of it as well. And what that does is it allows you to put a weight on that dropper rig, and you can put one weight or two weights.
Yeah, like you have this one here.
That one's got two weights on it.
Got it.
And what this does is that dropper, it keeps the weights and everything away from the hook. So when that gets down to the bottom and bounces on the bottom, the bait is suspended above it because the plastic wants to float.
It's safe to say, wouldn't you, Dave, that it's going to go down like this?
Correct. It's going to go shooting straight, punching straight down through, and it's going to sit there. And if you jig it a little bit, it'll keep the plastic bait above all that mess on the bottom, all the mud and debris. Because otherwise, if you had this jig on there, the jig would bury itself instead of the weight burying in there. It buries the whole jig in there.
So technically, so realistically, we think that this is, let me do this. Let's pretend this is the bottom here.
Right.
Can you get in there? So now the weight hits, but because air is in the plastic, this is suspending like this.
Correct.
Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, and because you're pulling from right here, this will come up and come back down and come up and come back down.
Like
and
this.
Exactly. And all he'll see is that little bait, and he'll come and grab this, and he doesn't grab the weight. And even if he does, it'll fold back.
What I really like, Dave, is how you reverse the two bullet weights to make it more weedless.
Correct. When you got them reversed like that, it punches in real good, and when you pull it out, it pulls out.
It's pulling out.
Yeah, and you know these are what they look like when you're in the package. You know, you see the two hooks and the long metal bar on it.
And the instructions on
Correct.
how to rig on the back.
Correct. And all you do is once you put your weight on, you just bend over the little piece of wire at the bottom, and it holds it in place. Now, it might be hard to get these because right now these VMC rigs or these Tokyo rigs are really hot, and even it was hard for me to get a hold of them. But I figured, well, maybe I could make one.
Yeah.
And I did. I went out and I got me some number 10 wire. I figured out a wire that's pretty comparable to the dropper on there.
Right.
The only thing is I won't have the little swivel at the top that'll keep that from swiveling. But it doesn't. I don't think it'll matter.
You put in a ring here, which
Correct.
is going to still give you.
Correct. I got a little fancy, and I put an oval ring. VMC uses a circle ring, and now I know why. I think you have to have the oval ring. I wouldn't use the oval ring like I've got on there. I would use a round one because it allows better freedom of movement. The oval has a couple
Dave,
straight spots in it.
I wish we had more time. Brie, I wish we had
Arts
more time
and crafts
as well.
with Dave Ferrell.
Arts and
I love it. So awesome. All right, our Yeti Upper Fresh Region Report is hot off the press with guide Johnny Geist, who's got the lowdown on Lake Fork, Monticello, and Tawakoni. Welcome back, Johnny.
Hello, Rick and Bree. How y'all today?
Good. How you
So
doing,
good.
Johnny?
Man, I'm doing great, but I'm looking forward to another exciting year with Texas Insider Fishing Report, and welcome to our viewers and sponsors, and I wish everyone a very productive and exciting fishing season this year. Well, this unsettled spring weather is just about behind us here around Fork. It was 38 this morning, but we need some warm weather. But the fish are biting, so let's take a look at what's going on around our area lakes up here. Well, Lake Fork continues to be the #1 big bass destination in Texas and surrounding states, and why is that? Because Fork continues to produce a trophy-sized largemouth almost every day. Our first share lunker and the largest bass reported so far this year comes in at 13.73 pounds, almost 14 pounds. And there's been another 13-plus bass released back in the lake. Numerous 11 and 12-pounders are caught almost daily this spring, and it's been a gangbusters. The spawn started a little late this year. Bass didn't show up on the beds until around March 20th. The next big wave should pull up about the full moon and around April 19th. That'll be our big wave, be bass everywhere then. The big bass will be on the beds in all areas of the lake at that time. So where should you look for the big bass right now? Well, they're kind of winding up on the first spawn, but the big female bass are still holding close to the back ends of the major spawning creeks. The ones that are best right now is Glade Creek. We got Running Creek, Oil Bay, and Rogers. A little bit of a spawning activity in the Bell Creek. Some of the most productive areas on the east side of the lake. If we go to the east side, we got Birch Creek, McGee, Boardtree, and Pinson. They're all doing good right now. And the upper half of Little Caney is also producing probably the clearest part of the Lake Fork right now where the sight fishing is going on. So what are they biting on? Probably the most consistent lure this spring so far has been the soft plastic stick type bait and a weightless jerk bait like the Bass Assassin. Usually when they're up real shallow, you can put those baits on, fish slow, you can get bit. Best colors continue to be that watermelon red and green pumpkin. Be sure you dip the chartreuse tail and spike it there. And next we throw the square bill crankbaits and shad colored vibrating jigs are the best search baits. Probably what I'll use tomorrow on the lake will be the square bill and the vibrating jig. Sight fishing, for those that really like to do that, it's in full swing right now, and anglers can catch some real big bass daily, but you have to find the clear water areas. The wind's been a little bit high, so it's been a little murky, but they're biting on the beds if you can find them. Nothing's more exciting than coaxing a big bass to bite and watching how she reacts to your lure. But you got to have a stout rod. Be sure you got some good strong line on, and try not to get too close to the bed because they're just a little bit spooky right now. The Texas rig white creature type bait or tube is working best for me, but you can't stop thinking about a black and blue jig with a watermelon trader. They'll really bite that too if they get hard to catch on the white bait. Look for the sandy areas near the vegetation around the shoreline, and that's where you'll find the beds. The old biggest bass, they usually set up close to slightly deeper areas and points. Secondary points, 1 to 5 foot. The water's about the best depth. You can't see them much more than 3 foot, but there's still some big ones a little farther out. My customers also enjoy catching big old bass on black salties, a live bait under cork, and we're also catching some real large crappies at the same areas, and they're spawning. I got a picture one. Here's a picture of that sharelunker that I mentioned. Barry Prince weighs this 13.73, the largest one so far. That is a monster.
That is a monster, Bub. You got another?
I put one in for a trip last week. I had a couple of big bass caught by Dennis Ferris and his daughter Emma during spring break, and they sure had 2 nice bass. We caught those back to back, dipped them up at about the same time.
Wow. Great fish.
The next hot spot is old Lake Monticello, just down the road. It's the first full spawning season in Monticello since they closed that power plant, shut down in 2018. So now we've got colder water there. Largemouth have got used to that colder water, and the lake's 3 foot lower levels, but they're biting as good as ever. This lake has not had the fishing pressure as in the past because of the closing of the power plant, but the bass are ready to chomp now. The upper end and above the bridge is where the most spawning activity is happening. The traditional spawning cove above the railroad bridge is the ideal spawning habitat. It's got a lot of flooded lily pad stems, hydrilla beds, and they're holding some large schools of spawning fish right at this time. The water's stained, muddy, but the bass don't seem to mind. Throw a vibrating jig or buzz bait to locate the bass, and then change over to the assassin or that stick bait again and slow down. Put the power poles down, stay in that area because there's plenty of bass spawning in those same areas once you catch one. Work that area over thoroughly and you'll load the boat. You can also launch into Bob Salmon, a little tip there next to Monticello Park. It's the same place you launch on Monticello and other lakes right across the bay. You increase your angling opportunity while you're there. Both Lake Bob and Monticello are the same depth and temperature, so conditions are very similar right now. Here's a picture, a couple pictures I actually put in here of a recent trip to Monticello. A friend of mine, Mac Bain, and I are on the lake, and we caught some pretty nice fish that day, just piddling around having fun there.
All right, Johnny, we're going to have to cut you off. We got a little long. I'm going to go ahead and read your hot spots. We'll get to those stripers next week. Thank you so much. So let's take a look at the Upper Fresh hot spots. He says that Lake Fork, Lake Monticello, the spawn has finally arrived, and the bass are spawning in the shallow in all the area of the lake. Artificial baits are working best. Crappie are best on minnows and jigs. And then Lake Tenawaki, blue cat stripers and hybrids are great in the shallows. Cut bait for big cats working best. And then swim baits for the big stripers ought to work. So as you can see, I have the lovely Kristen Salazar, my friend and owner of Casa Vieja Lodge, and she's my partner in all my tournament fishing that I do down in Guatemala, and we kick ass, I must say. I want to congratulate you and your husband. You have another baby coming.
Yes, number 3, little pirate princess.
So tell me about, when we go to Guatemala, we have great flights from Houston as well as Dallas and San Antonio and all the big cities. So it's real easy to get there. Once we get there, what can we expect?
Yeah, it's just about a 2-hour flight from Houston, 2.5 from Dallas. We pick you up at the airport, just under a 90-minute drive down to the lodge. This past time, you actually took a helicopter down, which many of our clients do, and that allows them to tour Antigua and the volcanoes, and then be down at the lodge within 30 minutes. So that's an easy upgrade that we do.
So when we arrive at the lodge, we certainly have how many rooms and how beautiful the place is?
It's gorgeous. You're arriving, you have fresh cocktails there waiting for you in hand. It's a 19-bedroom hotel, and we have 10 charter boats down there. We range from 35-foot contenders up to 44 sport fishers. So some have AC cabins, a little bit more comfortable, especially for the lady anglers and the older gentlemen that want to get some shade throughout the day.
So Kristen, certainly sailfish and billfish is what you guys specialize in. One of the things that comes to mind, let's talk a little bit about the weather that you might encounter.
Yeah, the weather down there, for the most part, it's flat, calm seas. That's why I like it. That's why everyone seems to like it, and the fishing is insane. We average about 12 to 15 sailfish raises per boat per day. Last year in 2018, we managed to release just over 12,000 billfish, and that's on the 10 boats in about a 9-month season from October through around July.
So let's talk a little bit of when you get down there. Sometimes you go to a third world place or places where they speak different languages, and there's a language barrier. What about our guys?
Our guys are all bilingual. They've been doing this about 15 to 20 years. They've grown up doing this. This is what they do. They know how to talk fishing. They know how to put you on the fish, and it's up to you to catch it. We're not going to be there passing you the rod.
Now, in the fall, which is my favorite time, that's when I always go, we have more of a variety then. There's so many sailfish this time of year that I don't think they have any chance to catch a marlin or a dolphin because of the aggression of the sailfish. The fall, how busy are you guys? Isn't that a great time to go?
The fall's a great time. That's when we host our tournament. A lot of other tournaments are hosted during that time. We host a No Sancocho tournament. And like you said, you've caught some great big mahis during that time. And what we do specially down there, when you catch a mahi before lunch, we cook it up for you on board the boat, so you have a hot mahi sandwich for lunch.
All right, so I know people are watching. They're going to want to know how they can get more information. Where do they go?
Come to CasaViejaLodge.com. You can chat with us online, give us a call. We're here in Miami. Just give us a call and we'll be able to help you make your fishing dreams come true.
All right, thank you so much, Brie.
Yes.
I'm ready to make a fishing dream come true.
Me
so
too.
What do you think?
Casa Vieja is simply the best, and I wouldn't mind going back again, Kristen. Okay, stay with us because coming up we have our middle and lower coast captain reports, and you won't want to miss what they have to say. And remember, to keep up with everything fishing in Texas, make sure to visit our website, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, watch us on YouTube, and check us out on Instagram. We'll be right back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Contender Boats, always in the game. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. CCA Star, fishing fun for giant prizes and scholarships. And Proshek Smokehouse, a link above.
An entirely new species of extreme predator is moving offshore. The Yamaha 5.6-liter V8 XTO offshore outboard. Extreme big block thrust and power in the industry's first direct injection 4-stroke. Quiet, efficient, powerful, and proven Yamaha reliability. More than an outboard, it's a fully integrated power system. The all-new Yamaha V8 XTO Offshore.
As close as you're gonna get to a sure thing for catching billfish is Guatemala.
They're here, man. This has been a 20-year run, buddy. These things haven't left. There's no cycle.
When it comes to sail fishing, this is the real deal.
The amount of sailfish here is ridiculous.
Today's Power Pole tip of the week is about the dual power poles. Now guys, total boat control is everything when you're shallow water fishing. So how you set up on an oyster bar, or how you set up on a mangrove shoreline, a point, or even maybe fishing docks, or for you guys that love to bass fish, setting up on those beds and having the right angle to create the perfect presentation is a part of what duals do so well. And it's one of the reasons why I love these blades the way I do. Now it's real simple. All I gotta do is push the key fob 2 times and it deploys my poles like you see here. Once I get the angle that I like, I simply push the button twice and it finds the bottom. Now, when I'm ready to make a little move, maybe to the other side of the dock, I just push the button, they come up, I stop for a second, and then when I'm ready to deploy and I get where I want, I can simply push the button 2 times, and that's what makes the dual power poles and these blades my power poles of choice. So keep that in mind, and that's today's Power Pole Tip of the Week.
All right, let's hop on down to the Middle Coast region, starring our resident captain, Bink Grimes, who has a lot to talk about inshore and offshore. Bink, you know what to do. Welcome back.
Hey, I'm happy to be back, and we're excited that the sun's finally out in Texas. It's been raining since late August, and it's finally starting to dry up. Our water temperatures have been in the mid-60s, and the trout bite's been pretty good. East Matagorda Bay has been giving up lots of trout in that 5 to 8 pound range. Anyone, regardless of your fishing prowess, can catch a big trout right now out of the boat. Many think that waiting is the only way to find a trout that's 8 pounds or better, but not right now. I said it before that I don't ever want to say that those trout in that 5 to 8 pound range are cheap, but right now in East Matagorda Bay, they're pretty cheap. We're catching multiple big fish on soft plastics and even live shrimp under a popping cork. So anybody can do it. The South Shoreline of West Matagorda Bay has been good. In the guts on that falling tide, according to Ray Sexton of Palacios, he's been tossing magic grass on light 1/16 ounce jig heads, and he's been getting trouts about 4 pounds. Then the Half Moon Reef nearby has really caught fire. It's near Palacios. We've had easy limits on it, on soft plastics and live shrimp under a popping cork. Nearby Coon Island is holding lots of fish too on the incoming tide. Just about any shell on that upper end of Palacios Bay is holding good trout. Rockport waders, they found trout to 8 pounds on custom corkies and double Ds along mud and grass shorelines, and then that live shrimp has worked well there as well on the reefs for boaters. Got Mike Siegel of Real Thrill Charters there at Freeport. He's found scattered trout around Christmas Bay, Bastrop Bay, and Freeport and along the jetty there. And guy Glenn Hammond, he's been finding the same deal, trout on the shell. It's pretty much the same all up and down the Middle Coast. Port O'Connor, they're drifting sand and grass there along the ICW, and they're catching trout on shrimp imitations and live shrimp. And then the waders around Panther Point are catching them on corkies and those mirror lure softines. Got a picture there, a photo of my daughter Mallory. She caught a trout there on a plum chartreuse, Bass Assassin sea shad. I've been throwing those sea shad this week as well and doing real well, chicken on a chain and on plum.
We'll go to redfish. The up and down spring tides determine where the redfish, where they're playing ball. Those swelling tides will push those reds in the back lake and Matagorda, like Lake Austin, Oyster Lake, and Crab Lake. And then at Port O'Connor, you'll find them in Conti, Pringle, Shoalwater, and it's been good for waders and drifters. And that jetty, the jetty's holding a lot of bull redfish right now, crabs and mullet, and there's been a lot in that 25-pound range. Around Matagorda, a guy, Tom Brown, he's reported limits of reds while he's soaking mullet along the shorelines in the West Bay. His counterpart, Keith Phillips, has been reporting the same thing around Shell Island and Matt Island. They're throwing up against the shell and just waiting for the big bite. Then the edges of the Virgin Channels held good reds on live shrimp. They're tossing 2 foot of water. I did that drill today through chicken on chain bass assassins up against there, kind of like bass fishing for redfish. Palacios anglers, they're finding those reds around Coon Island on live shrimp. Then the waders, they're working waist deep water around greens on gold spoons. Those reds have a hard time turning down gold spoons, the bass assassins, and mirror little johns right now. And the Rockport redfish has been on the Estes Flat on shrimp and mullet under a popping cork, and they're throwing those imitation shrimp there along the channel in the Ranges Pass for slot reds. They got a photo there of Doug Young of Austin pulled a redfish along the edge of that diversion channel last week when we were working the edges. Caught redfish up to about 7-8 pounds. We'll go to Black Drum. Guy Floyd Rudy said those spring tides are pushing light to keep a drum on the shell in Matt Island and Shell Island on live shrimp under a popping cork. Same thing are happening in San Antonio Bays and the Espiritu Santo Bay. We'll go to offshore. Hey, the red snapper, big pond has been holding lots of red snapper in Freeport. Mike Siegel, he's catching those snapper in state waters about 9 nautical miles out. Most of the fish have been over rocks and reefs, and most of them are getting their limit. Same happened to Matagorda. Michael Quebec is getting his red snapper in about 40 foot of water. A lot of those fish have been 12 to 18 pounds, and we found out we're going to get a 97-day recreational snapper fisher season this year, beginning June 1st. So we're pretty happy about that, and all the offshore guys are too.
All right, Bink, way to start us off this year. Thank you so much from the Middle Coast region. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from CCA. Trout are good along the south shoreline while waiting with bass assassins. The incoming tide has been best. And the redfish are good along the north shoreline of West Matagorda Bay on the live shrimp and mullet. Man, it's like north shoreline, West Bay, there's West Bay right versus...
I got you.
All right,
we'll get through it. All right, the Garmin Lower Coast region is where it's at, so let's see what you'll be fighting this weekend with Captain Chad Kinney. Good to have you back, Chad. Let's hear it.
I tell you what, I'm pumped up for the season, and I'm sure everybody's itching. They're ready for summertime to show up and warm weather, and the fishing's going to be great this year, I think, here. Inshore here out of Port Mansfield's been really good. The trout bite's been really good, and we're getting some redfish. The trout are on the deeper grass beds, and redfish are along the west shoreline and the drop-offs there. And the offshore, the state water snapper fishing's consistent down here. It's been really good. Water's starting to warm up out there a little bit like that, so you can head out deeper, and this is the time right now to get out there and try for some wahoo. So the trout fishing, like I said, out of port here in Mansfield, it's been really good around those deeper grass beds. This time of year, they like doing that stuff. Live shrimp and popping cork's been working really, really good. Fishing at 4 to 6 foot of water. So I'd use like a 30-pound fluorocarbon leader with your best popping cork you like at about 24 to 30 inches in depth. And the key on that stuff, guys, when you pop it, I mean, they call them popping corks, you got to really rip it and pop that noise. Don't just make it move an inch or two. Really pop it, and you'll get good results off that. If you're throwing the soft plastics, we've been throwing a lot of saltwater assassins and been using that chicken on the chain and also like that magic grass, that plum that's working really well on that 1/8-ounce jig head. Working those same deep grass beds, sand pockets. And this time of year, you might want to work it a little bit slower than normal. Go to the ball tails and stuff like that. Got a picture of a young man here on a nice trout, Jeffrey Lefevre. He's fishing those deeper grass beds, like I'm saying out here, using a live shrimp popping cork.
That trout hasn't been nice for 5 years. He went way past nice. Good Lord.
Yeah, and that's good stuff. So moving over to the redfish, they're not real consistent and stuff like that, but I can tell you where they have been. They've been moving along that west shoreline north here in Port. Been really good when the wind's not blowing. Using mirror lures, surface walkers, working really good, and twitch baits. Go ahead, and the best thing to do that, since you're along the shorelines, we can wade fish along through there, spread your guys out. That's the best thing. Now we can work up against the banks. Don't be scared to throw 3-4 feet off that bank and work those points and drop-offs. If you're using bait, work those deeper drop-offs. Use fresh mullet, live shrimp, working real well on that. For live shrimp, use the popping cork. On the mullet, use a Carolina rig off the bottom. Moving over to the offshore stuff, state water snapper fishing's been good. It's good year-round down here. But the only thing this time of year, work your trips, look at the weather, around the weather conditions, because this time you can have a big front hits in, and even the seas might be nice afterwards, but you're going to have some currents you have to deal with out there that might hinder your trip. So the best way to be prepared with that one, guys, is be plenty prepared with some different weights. Get some bank weights, like 6 to 16-ounce weights. And the heavier you go, the higher current. I like drifting a lot for those bigger snapper and stuff like that, but when the current's really bad, you're going to have to go ahead and anchor up. So anchor up current of your structure. So that means you're also going to have to let more rope out than you usually do, so you don't slide past your structure and get off of it. So that's the best way to do it. Fresh bait's working the best. We got fresh squid, menhaden, and everything here. That Laguna Madre baits, it's working the best until we get later in the season for the jigging. So I can show you how it's working. There's a good picture of red snapper there. Had one of my clients catch it. I snuck in there to take a quick pick on that guy.
That is a stud. Tell me about the offshore.
I'll tell you what, offshore, it's going to be a great season this year, but the wahoo, like I said, this is my favorite time of year. The water temperatures from Mexico are kind of sneaking in, so the water temperature is going to come up. And we head out deeper there for, from Port Aransas down here all the way to the islands to your deeper rigs or your structure. Throw some divers and stuff like that when you're working those areas. Remember to use a wire leader, do a haywire twist on that stuff, check your stuff after the knockdowns. If you're covering large areas like a reef or structure, under the bottom stuff like that, you might want to step it up and do 10 to 12 knots with some jet heads to cover more around there. If you get into a situation where you find a rip or a weed line or temperature change, stay on that, look for bait and stuff like that, and stick there and work those things. This time is a time of year we can go up there and actually get some double-digit numbers if you have a really good wahoo bite. And we got a picture of a beautiful wahoo there and a jet head just underneath the surface there.
Ooh. All right, thank you for all the great pictures this week, Chad. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the the hot spots from the Lower Coast region, the Garmin Lower Coast region inshore. Port Mansfield has been good on trout and redfish. Trout are in the deeper grass beds and reds along the west shoreline and drop-offs. And then offshore, state water snapper fishing has been good. With the water starting to warm up, head out deeper and try for those wahoos.
The trout, the snapper, the wahoo, you're just discombobulated up here.
The size of those
I know, it's crazy. It's okay, get yourself together.
We're
setting our sights in the lower fresh region when we return here on the Texas Insider Fishing Report. But right now, my sight is set on some beautiful new products over there at the CCA workbench. What you got? You're looking pretty blue.
We got some cool spinner baits and some blue stuff that you're not supposed to drink.
Oh, well,
so
yeah.
I would want to drink it.
I think you need a shot.
Don't drink that. We'll be right back, guys.
Clean out your pipes.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yeti, built for the wild. Turn on the bite anytime. Tie on a MirrOlure. Building Conservation Trust. CCA's National Habitat Program. And StarTron. Cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems.
At the pinnacle of super high output, 4-stroke outboard performance, you'll find Yamaha VMAX SHO. Yamaha's game-changing SHO technology. From exhilarating V6 models to the sleek inline 4s, there's a VMAX SHO for everything from bass to bonefish. It's an extended family of 4-strokes engineered for lightweight, inspiring performance, and rock-solid reliability. Discover VMAX SHO and elevate your expectations.
Oh, there it is.
You can either stay busy fishing or get busy catching. From Texas to Tampa Bay or Key West to the Carolinas and beyond. For nearly 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing, that nothing says no to fish bites. Ask for Fish Bites and Fish Bites Fight Club lures by name or visit fishbites.com.
Over 40 years ago, Mr. Proshek began smoking meat in a little Texas town called Hilgi, combining fresh, grade A ingredients to create a variety of legendary smoked meats. Today, Proshek's Smokehouse is a Texas tradition, and now Proshek's not only satisfies hunger in Texas, but across the country. Visit Prosheks.com and order everything from fresh meats to your choice of jerky. Proshek's meats are made by Prosheks, sold by Prosheks, and can be delivered in as little as a day. Proshek's Smokehouse, a link above.
Dave, we're here at the CCA Workbench. Talk about new products.
Yes, sir.
And man, we got some blue drinky.
Yeah, we're going to start with a StarTron diesel. You know, everybody's going to diesel engines nowadays. They're really durable. They got great fuel economy. They're just, you know, everybody's going to diesel. But, you know, diesel sometimes can have problems. You know, it has a problem getting water in it a lot of times, you know, especially if you're getting it for your boat and whatnot. But, you know, the StarTron enzyme diesel treatment will take that water out. And when it does, it makes your engine burn better. It doesn't leave deposits everywhere. You know, it makes all your valves and everything stay clean. Yeah. And it's because, you know, it gets that water out. And what it is the water in there will make organic acids. You know, when they're eating that water, the little stuff in there, it'll make stuff that makes the fuel not burn properly. And that's what causes all your problems.
The thing that I respect about this is that it's designed for all kinds of diesels.
Yep,
so
you put
can
in your
use
generator.
It in your diesel or biodiesels,
Right.
which is what we use in the farm tractors and a lot of
Yeah.
the diesel that we buy like over in the Bahamas for our generators.
Yeah.
Though it's biodiesel.
And if you have equipment that's sitting around, you know, with gas, it's stale, you know, you can put this stuff in it and it'll rejuvenate your gas.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's a great product.
Start your diesel.
This big bottle
512 gallons.
will treat 510 gallons.
A cap
guys.
is 5 gallons and 1 ounce is 32 gallons for just
All right.
1 ounce.
So there you have it, guys.
Get you
go
some
to
StarTron. If you
go
got a
to
diesel
StarTron.
engine, you got to have that.
Or gas. We make it for both.
Correct.
That's right.
Now we got some fish bites there. These are the fish bite strips. You know, fish bites are really cool. What they've done is they've impregnated a real fish food into that mesh. And what it does is it creates a great scent trail. It triggers the feeding response in fish. I mean, it's science. There's not a bunch of BS in this. And when you want to trim that thing off to whatever size you want, when you put it on a jig or whatever, you're not going to be able to bite that off. It says not to do that in there.
It does?
Yeah, don't do that, man. Because that mesh in there is really hard. It'll rip your teeth out. It will. There's a nasty mesh in there.
Wonder what else is going to happen.
I don't
on the
know.
way
Well, I
out.
guess we'll find out. But anyway, they make it in a lot of different colors and flavors. They make it in crab, shrimp, clam, and I think I'm forgetting one.
Crab, shrimp, clam,
And I don't know.
sand.
Sand flea, maybe?
That's
I
correct.
don't know. But anyway.
Squid?
It comes in a variety of colors, and they make them in chunks or even like this where you can cut them yourself. Great big sheets of it you can cut yourself. And if you're going to fish in the surf for pompano or whiting or flounder even, I use them on jigs for flounder all the time because the flounder will not let it go when
You
I
know,
got
I
that stuff
used
on
this
it.
stuff in the 90s before any artificial scented plastics were even made. And you know, Dave, the cool part was we would just tip a bucktail jig.
That's what I do with it.
And you could, I mean, I'm feeling it in my mouth how it's starting to dissolve.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like I got some potatoes in there.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, what else we got, Bubba?
Well, we got these ringer swivels, and these are really good if you're a sail fishing guy. We use them a lot because it allows your circle hook to make a full rotation instead of just the swivel or the O-ring. It's a combination of the swivel and the O-ring, and all the tournament guys are using them. And if you travel outside the country to do any kind of bill fishing and you're pulling ballyhoos, you're going to be using one of those little O-rings or a swivel. And this takes the place of both of them with one little piece. It's an O-ring on the swivel, so when you bury that first into the swivel, into the ballyhoo, you got the O-ring sticking out, and you can put that hook inside that little O-ring, and it swivels 360 degrees, so you have great hookups with it.
Yeah.
So pick you up some of those ringer swivels. All right, we got some Paul Brown, the soft Dean. You heard him mention it earlier.
Yeah,
we got two little soft Deans there. The soft bodies, you know, it's kind of just like the mirror Dean, except it's a soft Dean, so it's got that soft plastic body. A fish will grab a hold of it and you won't let go of it. It's a small bait. I like smaller baits. Everything eats the smaller baits. Sometimes the little fish won't eat a great big one, so I like to use the little ones too. Suspending twitch bait, you know, it stays in front of the fish for a long time. It mimics a small little mullet or any
It's the right
pilchard.
shape.
It's
It's
a
the right shape.
perfect little mimic right
Got
there.
30 seconds to
Okay,
go and
well,
do one more?
let's do the limber blade real quick. From these fellas are from Parrish, Florida, and the limber blade is a great spinner bait because the top blade is limber.
Right.
It's actually will collapse, so you can drag that through a lot of different stuff. It won't hang up as easy, and when a fish comes and eats it, if he gets on top of that the whole spinner, it's going to collapse and he'll be able to get it. They make them, the Limber Magic is for saltwater with a single blade, and the Limber Blade there is a freshwater one for 2 blades for your bass and everything else. let me tell you, they work good. I know for a fact.
Rick?
All right, Rick.
I'm just flabbergasted over here. Are you
Did
still
he eat
chewing
that
on
thing?
that
Yeah,
fish
I think he
bite?
is.
How is it? Is it good?
It's
Did you
really
eat
good.
those in the 90s
Good.
too?
I'm gonna have a little
'Cause-
water with it though.
Yeah, you
It
should
tastes
just
a little
spit it out.
shrimpy.
All right, now on to our last guide, Matt Reed in the Prospect Lower Fresh region, talking about Lake Decker, Travis, Austin, and more. So let's get moving on this itty bitty region of yours, Matt.
Yeah, we're ready to get this thing kicked off. I'm going to cover as much of it as I can. Let's start off at my favorite, at Lake Falcon. The bass are biting really well right now. They're biting the spinnerbait and Texas rig soft plastics on the shallow hardwood in that 2 to 5 foot range. But my favorite pattern is starting to develop. We're getting into that summertime pattern down there. It's already way past the spawn, and they're starting to set up out on the offshore rocks, biting crankbaits and Carolina rig soft plastics. They're using that bigger rock ledges from the mid-lake to the dam and 8 to 18 feet of water down there now. I love it when they group up out there. That'll be your big groups of fish. Moving on to Lake Somerville. Water temperature there is about 70, which means probably half the fish have spawned and half of them have not. Right now you need to be fishing the edge of the buckbrush and the standing timber with dark-colored soft plastics or chartreuse and white spinner baits in that 1 to 6 foot depth. Lake Decker in the Austin area is fishing really good right now. There's a few fish still spawning, but most of them are done. You can catch them up shallow, some of the post-spawn fish, but they're really starting to feed up. They group up and feed when they get done spawning. Brian Cotter's bunch had about 70 fish today. Most days he's catching about 30. So fish that shallow water in the 2 to 5 foot range with soft plastics and crankbaits and catch a bunch of fish at Lake Decker. Fayette County is fishing really well also. With most of the fish there, they're finished spawning because it's a power plant lake. Those fish are in 3 to 8 feet of water around the timber and grass. Fish a lightweight Texas rigged Cinco or a crawl worm for those shallow fish. The deep bite is starting to kick off there also, catching them on a Carolina rigged finesse worm in that 12 to 20 foot range. Around Austin and Lake Travis, that beautiful clear water on Lake Travis, there's still some fish spawning. There's lots of males and a few big females still moving up on the beds. You can catch those fish on a shaky head crawl worm and a watermelon candy. Seem to bite it better if you'll dip the claws of that crawl worm in chartreuse. That seems to trigger a bite. The ones that are done spawning have moved out and grouped up in that 20 to 30 feet of water, and you can catch some of those on the rock ledges with a football jig. LBJ, another lake in that Austin area, is still pumping out a lot of fish around the grass. You can catch those on a spinnerbait or a Cinco. The fish around the docks, the best way to catch those fish is to skip a jig under the docks. That works best on the sunny days. They get under there for the shade and the bluegill that concentrate around those docks. And there's been some really big fish caught like that lately. Moving on down south of the San Antonio area, Choke Canyon. Most of the fish are done spawning at Choke Canyon. The north side of the lake, the spawn is pretty much totally over. There's still some spawning on the south side where it's a little bit cooler. Half-ounce spinnerbaits, chartreuse and white color has been best on both sides of the lake, though, in that shallow water. There's the fish that are still spawning. One of the great ways to catch them right now is on a white weightless fluke. Rig it Texas rig where it'll come through the grass and cover really well. And you catch some big old fish like that. That picture there, I've got Greg Boyd with Anglers Angle Guide Service with 2 Somerville giants that he caught on trips.
What size are those fish, Matt?
What's that?
What size are they?
Oh, that fish, one of them's like an 8-pound fish, and one's probably about a 6-pound fish. Big old bass, put a big smile on your face.
All right, tell me about the white bass quickly.
We got some white bass at Lake Somerville, white bass and hybrids. They've come out of the river back into the main lake. They've got down around the dam on the shallow flats. You can catch them casting inline spinners and lipless crankbaits, and that's a great way to have a bunch of fun.
All right, let me ask you, I got a question for you, bub. We got a little more time. How do you like those lipless crankbaits? How do you like to fish those, bub?
I'll either yo-yo it or burn it. A lot of times they'll react to it in those schools when you're reeling it really fast because they don't get a good look at it, and then they'll react to it and really bite it with a lot of speed.
All right, thank you for keeping me straight on that. I'm gonna go ahead and look at the hot spots from the Prospect lower fresh region, and we're gonna go to Choke Canyon. Largemouth bass are biting really well. The males are still shallow, biting square bill crankbaits and Texas rig soft plastics. Look for the bigger ones in 8 to 12 feet with deeper cranks and Texas rig worms. And you know what? When you find them, they're gonna be grouped up, so make sure you stay with them.
I smell you. You smell like a fish bite.
What flavor was it?
It was like a shrimp.
I think that was clam.
No, it was shrimp.
Definitely clam.
No, it was this one.
It was shrimp.
Oh, shrimp. Oh, gosh,
Just
does it matter,
just
guys? Does it
smells
matter? I
like
can't believe
a
it.
clam,
This is turning
baby.
into a Fear Factor show.
It could just be me.
Shrimp.
All right,
I don't even
guys,
think
thank
you're
you so
smelling that.
much for
I did
joining
for
us.
you,
We're
your color.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for tuning in. We're really
Well,
excited to be
need a
back
little
on the
more
air. And we hope you guys tune in for next week. Bye, y'all. Have a good weekend out on the water.
It really wasn't bad.
It was
It's
bad.
terrible.
It was so bad.
It wasn't bad.
It's a wonder you didn't break your tooth.